And good morning. It's 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Christine Romans. Let's get you current. Triple-digit heat, brutal temps in the South have schools struggling to stay open, plus a new threat of severe storms. Face-to-face, President Trump wants a new meeting with North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un. We're live at the White House. Gripping new testimony in the trial of Lindsay Clancy. Her lawyers now arguing the mental health care system failed her. And 5 Americans killed in a deadly helicopter crash in Kenya, including a Telemundo executive. Investigators due back on the scene today. And good to be with you this Thursday, August 20th. We've got a lot of news to get to this morning. We begin this hour with that late summer heat wave stretching coast to coast. 83 million people are under alerts today from Southern California to South Florida. Temperatures in some cities feeling well into the triple digits. And with many students nationwide already back in school, districts are scrambling to keep kids cool. These high school football players in Texas gearing up for practice before sunrise to beat the heat. And it's not just high temperatures. 35 million people are under flood alerts this morning. Parts of the Midwest are bracing for a second round of heavy wind and torrential rain. Many communities are still cleaning up after the last monster storm system. In Indiana, more than 20,000 people are still without power. NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman will have a closer look at the forecast for us in just a minute. But we start with NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson. She is in sweltering Houston. Priscilla, good morning. You've been feeling this heat in Texas, but you are not alone.
Yeah, Christine, lots of us are just feeling the heat. It is already 85 degrees here this morning. You can see this splash pad behind me would normally be full of kids. None are there right now, and that temperature is only going to continue rising as you have millions across the country who are trying to find ways to stay cool and safe. This morning, extreme weather coast to coast. Over 80 million Americans sweltering under heat alerts, with the heat index as high as 115 in parts of the southeast. But other areas hit with ferocious storms. Possible tornadoes touching down in Ohio and Indiana.
It's touched down.
Heavy rain and strong winds pounding the Midwest. Floodwaters covering roads and cars. Further south, the Mississippi State campus hit with heavy wind and rain on the first day of classes. Students of all ages coping with the wild weather across the country. That extreme heat impacting back-to-school season. Here in Texas, officials taking extra precautions to keep students safe.
The normal time for recess is 30 minutes, or perhaps it goes down to 15 minutes to limit the time that the students are in the heat.
In Louisiana, the scorching conditions raising alarms for parents.
That's a long ride on a bus with no AC, and it's 95 degrees outside.
First responders say keeping kids hydrated is key.
Get away from the sugary drinks, energy drinks. Those dehydrate you even more, so it adds to the problem.
From Phoenix to Alabama, volunteers racing to help the most vulnerable. Crews in Phoenix also working to add nearly 200 miles of cool pavement, a special sealant described as sunscreen for the roads.
This grayer coating can make up to 12 degrees Fahrenheit difference at noon.
As communities nationwide find creative ways to stay cool.
Priscilla, we heard there how we have to stay hydrated in this heat. What else are experts recommending to keep cool?
Yeah, one thing is if you're going to be going out, loose, breathable clothing that you can kind of get some airflow through, and also just minimizing your time outdoors. You heard about recess. If you're going to be out for 30 minutes, maybe just 15 minutes. If you're going to go play tennis, maybe only do an hour or less than that. And of course, hydration is the big one that we're hearing, especially from first responders. They're talking about how the days of this heat can really start to accumulate on the body. So if you're dehydrated one day and then the next day is also hot and you're dehydrated, you can really start to feel those impacts physically. Christine?
All right, Priscilla Thompson, thanks so much, and stay cool if you can. Let's bring in NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman. Angie, let's start with this heat. No relief in sight.
No relief in sight, unfortunately, for the long haul, Christine. This is going to be something that we see kind of long lasting over the coming days. And still, 83 million people under these alerts. A lot of these are the same locations that we've been dealing with heat alerts for days and days. And I do not imagine that they are going to change all that much in the next 3 to even 5 days. Here's what we've got in store today, though. 90s in Wichita, but feeling like 100 degrees. Dallas at 106, but feeling like 109. Warm across the southwest as well. Phoenix, you will feel like 111 today. We've got New Orleans at 110. Looking ahead to tomorrow, essentially the same. No relief really for a whole lot of folks. Even Columbia, you'll be into those low 90s, but feeling like 101. We've got Memphis at 102. And even looking way ahead into early next week, late weekend, there's not a lot of relief in sight. Still the upper 90s across Baton Rouge, still triple digits for Oklahoma City. The only spots that I think will get a little more bearable, places like Nashville and Raleigh, where you will see temperatures feeling like the low 90s, mid 90s at the warmest point of the upcoming work week. But otherwise, along the Gulf Coast, just really brutal, Christine. 107 on Sunday for the feels like in Baton Rouge.
That is remarkable. And we've got flood watches up for like 35 million people, including parts of Indiana, which is still inundated from those recent floods.
Exactly. And, I feel like a broken record because we talk about the heat day after day, and we're still talking about some of those same areas dealing with the flood concerns and severe weather yet again today. We've got a little bit of a break for sections of the Midwest, but not all of it. We'll still see the upper Midwest kind of active as we get into the second half of the day. Hail, wind gusts are going to be on the table, but a lot of that front that had been popping up the showers and thunderstorms across the Midwest, now it's moving to the east. That means places like Washington, D.C. could see some of the stronger storms as we get into the second half of the day today. On top of that, we're concerned about flooding, specifically along the I-95 corridor across parts of the Appalachians. We'll see already 34 million people under flood watches. And as that batch of rain works to the east, we're going to ramp things up. Specifically, the second half of the day along the I-95 corridor, we're concerned for that afternoon commute. Could be really heavy rainfall. We're talking hourly rainfall rates 1 to even 3 inches at a time. So on the roads, it'll be difficult. And of course, if you're flying in and out of those airports of that region, likely going to be difficult. Here's the areas that we're most concerned about the flash flooding through the day today, Christine.
Yeah, I'm flying for a college drop-off, so I'm like fingers crossed here with that flash flood risk. Thanks so much, Angie Lassman. All right, President Trump promising an economic D-Day against Iran, and he is threatening any country that provides aid to the country. The president wrote in part on social media last night, quote, any country that allows its financial institutions, businesses, airports, or government entities to provide any type of lifeline to Iran will itself face tremendous economic consequences. One of those countries would likely be China, which bought more than 80% of Iran's oil exports last year. That's according to the analytics firm Kepler. Joining us now, NBC News Chief White House correspondent Garrett Haake. And Garrett, first the U.S. launched a bombing campaign against Iran. Then there were negotiations and 2 months of negotiations. And now the U.S. is threatening an economic D-Day for Iran. 6 months into the war, what's this new strategy here?
Well, and I think the history and context going back even further than that's still important, Chris, where you've got a country here that the U.S. has had some variety of sanctions on for decades, now essentially going back to what was step one. Try to use economic pressure to get Iran back to the bargaining table and accomplish what was the original goal of this whole episode, which was to get them to abandon their nuclear program. Now, that post from the president last night was very long, but it was also very short on detail. You mentioned China. The president doesn't specify. Is he really going to do secondary sanctions? Or are they going to try to disrupt the flow of Iranian oil to China in other ways? Or perhaps is this post meant not at Iran, but at those other countries who are allied with Iran or who are kind of in their sphere of influence and might be able to turn around and talk to them and say, look, we need to keep this economic relationship going. You need to be talking to Trump. It's hard to ascribe too much strategy to this beyond that based on how little we know here. But I think this is another example, once again, of just how bad the options are for the president to try to find a way out of this conflict now as we approach the 6-month mark next week.
The president said yesterday that he could resume talks with Iran at some point. Is there an urgency to cut a deal, or have they switched to this economic pressure?
It seems like this switch to the economic pressure is where we are this week, or the second half of this week, Christine, because at the beginning of this week, you heard Jared Kushner, the special envoy, the president's son-in-law, who said in an interview that talks with Iran were robust and that they were going on actively at that moment. The president has really not been able to stick with one single strategy here for more than a few days, but this kind of economic strangulation strategy at least has the benefit of being relatively low risk. It doesn't require kinetic operations. It's the kind of thing where he can get into a bit of a a staring contest or a waiting game with Iran. The downside risk here is Iran does not have midterm elections coming up. President Trump does. And so the economic impacts could be just as likely to be felt here as they are where decisions are being made in Tehran.
Oil prices again yesterday, climbing up to another 3-week high here, much higher than they were before the war began. I also want to ask you about the president saying he wants to meet with the North Korean leader Kim Jong Un this year. Notably, North Korea launched about a dozen short-range missiles hours after the president said that. What does President Trump hope to gain from meeting with Kim?
This is interesting to me because this kind of came out of nowhere earlier this week with the president saying he wanted to resume meetings with Kim. Remember, he had 3 during his first term. Yesterday, I asked him about this, if this is about denuclearization. North Korea has at least 50 some odd nuclear weapons. Getting them to abandon a program seems like it might be a pretty tough ask. And the president seemed to concede in his answer that that's not even really the goal. Listen to this, and we'll talk about it some more. Is your goal in trying to re-engage with Chairman Kim still denuclearization? And what makes you think you could be successful now when you weren't?
Well, I don't want to talk about that, but I do have a good relationship with Kim Jong Un. I think our nation and I think other nations, frankly, whether it's Japan or South Korea, they're a lot safer if I'm president than if somebody else is president.
The president seems to believe that just by being in active conversation with the North Koreans, they will behave more. But also, Christine, I think some of this is personal for the president. He loves this kind of direct leader-to-leader diplomacy where he can go to summits and shake hands and feel like he's making deals. The Iranians don't operate that way. North Korea does.
All right, Garrett Hake following all for us from the White House. Thank you, Garrett. Right now, a crowd is gathering outside the courthouse where the murder trial of Lindsay Clancy is underway. The event is described as a silent rally to support Lindsay Clancy. Demonstrators there dressed in pink say they want to raise awareness about postpartum mental health. Similar rallies are expected across the U.S., and one has even been advertised in the Netherlands. Yesterday, the psychologist who evaluated Clancy after the killings of her 3 children took the stand. He testified for a second day in a row.
She had bipolar disorder with postpartum psychoses. In addition, she was unable to conform her behaviors to the rule of law, and she had no appreciation for the wrongfulness of her act.
Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Stephen Romo, NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris. This is just such a tough trial to watch, you guys. And Stephen, we're seeing those women in pink, a few hundred maybe, trying to show at least awareness for postpartum mental health. Tell us what's happening outside the courtroom.
Yeah, they are certainly there to advocate for women and mothers and mental health issues, but it's also explicitly a rally to support Lindsay Clancy. In fact, the organizer saying that she thought of doing this whenever she saw Lindsay breaking down in court, whenever information about the autopsies were read and photos of the autopsies were shown. She decided that she wanted to do this. And the response she got has been very strong because a lot of people can relate to issues with the healthcare system, particularly when it comes to mental health. There were, as you mentioned, similar gatherings in other cities and overseas as well, people who feel really strongly about this.
Misty, the psychologist Dr. Zeisel took the stand yesterday, providing some of the strongest testimony for the defense. Do you think his assessment could be a turning point here?
This was necessary because the jury needed to understand what psychosis looks like. And so Dr. Zeisel is a defense expert witness who testified that Lindsay Clancy had actually shown symptoms of psychosis before January 24th, the day that she killed her children, that she was, when you're in that mental state, that you can still be functioning, you can still pick up the phone, you can still Google something, you can still go and talk about medications, bring your child to the doctor, but be in a state of psychosis, describing it as waves in and out of the beach. So he gave the jury information to hang on to as far as what psychosis is and making their determination about her state of mind. Now, of course, there's going to be rebuttal experts for the prosecution who will probably say something very different in the courtroom today.
Yeah, and Stephen, yesterday's trial was originally expected to be a full day, and then it ended a little bit early. What happened there?
Yeah, this was interesting, a bit odd, actually. Judge Sullivan saying after an afternoon break that they were going to send jurors home, and he said this was an unforeseen circumstance and not something we saw coming. He also instructed the jury not to speculate about the cause and not to hold it against either side. So we don't exactly know what that was. We do know his court has started this morning. He's brought jurors in one by one to speak with them, and that is happening before testimony gets underway. So it's still not exactly clear. Something is happening. It's not exactly clear what.
And Misty, that viral TikTok user who previously worked at the hospital where Clancy was treated, took the stand, but she was told she wouldn't be allowed to testify in front of the jury. What's happening there?
So this was a voir dire. The defense wanted her to testify specifically with regard to staffing and services that were available at McLean Hospital, where Lindsay Clancy was from January 4th to January 5th. She had a lot to say about it on TikTok. The judge, outside the presence of the jury, allowed both sides to ask questions to make a determination about whether or not she would actually testify. Ultimately, she was not there during the time Lindsay Clancy was a patient. Judge decided it wasn't material to the case because of that, and there was a better source. The records from McLean Hospital, which have been admitted into court, and the jury will be able to review.
Has it surprised you how the health care treatment of Lindsay Clancy has become such a focus of this trial?
So it was part of the defense strategy. The defense has said, if you want somebody to blame, look at the failures in the health care that Lindsay Clancy was seeking. Look at how desperate she was to find something that helped. So that is a focal point. And right out the gate, Christine, prosecutors in opening statements said, this is not about the healthcare system. This is about Lindsay Clancy. The defense said this is an indictment on women and postpartum depression and psychosis. So those were the narratives right from the beginning.
It'll be interesting how the jury feels about all of it, because at the bottom of this are 3 children whose lives are lost. All right. Nice to see both of you. Stephen Romo, Misty Maris, thank you. All right, another case is drawing national attention. A Texas judge will soon hear arguments over whether a high school track star convicted of murder should face a new trial. Just yesterday, the district judge who presided over Carmelo Anthony's case was removed. The defense citing concerns over his impartiality after that judge said in an interview the jury, quote, got it right. In June, the 19-year-old was sentenced to 35 years in prison for the stabbing death of another high school student at a track meet last year. Joining us now from outside the courthouse in Texas, NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler. Ryan, Anthony's attorneys have requested a new trial, in part because they say the teen was coerced into waiving his right to testify. They also cited that judge's conduct.
Right, and some uncharacteristically candid comments from that judge in the immediate aftermath of this conviction. The judge was asked by a local TV station whether he believed the jury got it right, and he said clearly, yes, they did. He also described Anthony as a, quote, nice young man who committed a crime. Seemingly making up his mind about this defendant. And if you're his defense team and you want a fresh set of eyes on this trial, then they, claim that he is no longer capable of giving an impartial view of this. And they were victorious, at least at first, yesterday in getting a new judge for this trial, Christine.
If a retrial is granted, then what happens next, Ryan?
Well, we don't quite know the specifics of that answer yet. We do expect if a retrial is granted, it will also be set for a date at the same time. But our NBC affiliate here in Dallas spoke to Austin Metcalf's father, who reminded us of the stakes of this. If a new trial is granted, that gives no guarantees for the defendant, Carmelo Anthony. In fact, Jeff Metcalf, Austin's father, said that he may even end up getting more years in his sentence if he is convicted again. So while the defense is certainly celebrating their initial win yesterday, a new trial is by no means a guarantee of a farther victory for Anthony, Christine.
Hey, Ryan, this case has sparked conversation around race. What's been the community's reaction to the possibility of a retrial?
Well, it certainly has among a certain faction. There has been a very vocal presence of Anthony supporters outside the courthouse chanting throughout the duration of this trial, who are worried that in part because of Anthony's race, he's unlikely to get a fair trial here in Collin County. They point to the fact that in the trial that led to his initial conviction, there were no black jurors on the panel. There were people of color on the jury, but they were very concerned that no black people were ultimately chosen. We should note that attorneys on both sides, both in his defense and the prosecutors, tried to impress upon the jury that this is not a question of race. It was not a racially motivated attack. And they really tried to remove that factor from the jury's mind in trial. Christine.
All right, Ryan Chandler. Thank you so much, Ryan. Much more ahead, including the royal reversal. Prince Harry and Meghan moving back to the UK after their falling out with the royal family. We're live at Buckingham Palace. Plus, new details on the death of actress Hayden Panettiere. Police now investigating if a crime took place. And later, the new report on how artificial intelligence is dramatically altering the global workforce. Which types of workers are most exposed to the AI revolution? We'll get you current after the break. And we're back with some royalty. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are moving back to the UK with their 2 children. The family stepped away from royal duties, of course, 6 years ago. The big question this morning, why? NBC News correspondent Danielle Hamamdjian has the latest details on the surprising royal return.
A royal bombshell nobody saw coming. The Telegraph newspaper reporting that 6 years after they stepped down as working royals, Prince Harry and his wife Meghan are moving back to the UK along with their 2 children. The move, the paper says, will make the UK their primary base, with Archie and Lilibet, 7 and 5, to be enrolled in British schools starting in September. When asked by NBC, a spokesperson for the couple did not deny the reports.
India, quite the bombshell. How surprised were you and other royal insiders?
I think it's fair to say that it has caught everybody off guard. I think it's very important for Prince Harry, for his children, to understand his own British heritage, his upbringing, the family that they are a part of on this side of the Atlantic.
For now, the Telegraph reports the couple will not be reprising their roles as working royals, will not live in a royal residence, and their security arrangements still unclear. The couple left the UK for California in part because of what they said was unbearable treatment by the tabloids. Prince Harry's memoir later frayed tensions, describing the breakdown in the relationship with his brother and father. Last month, Harry was joined by Meghan and their children for a visit with the King and Camilla. It was the first time Charles, who's still receiving cancer treatment, had seen his grandchildren in 4 years.
Danielle Hamamdjian, NBC News.
All right, joining us now from outside Buckingham Palace, Telegraph Entertainment and royal correspondent India McTaggart. So nice to see you. We heard your comments in that piece there. After 6 years, by the way, your paper had the scoop here. After 6 years, why are they choosing to move back to the UK?
Well, these are the questions that everybody is asking on both sides of the Atlantic today. Why and why now? What happened to all the furore over the press, the unfair treatment of Meghan in the press? What happened to her saying that she couldn't imagine her children doing the school run here without being besieged by British tabloids? What happened to the fears over security, which they have been so vocal about, to the point that Harry said a year ago he couldn't imagine bringing Meghan and his 2 children back to the UK safely until last month, apparently. So I think the question on everyone's mind is, why make this decision now? And is it perhaps they have run out of commercial road in the US? Do they need to ingratiate themselves again within the royal fold to become relevant once more commercially? That could be a point. There's also conversation online going around about whether this might be a tax ploy, whether they might keep their home in Portugal, spend some days there and actually be sort of based between the two. So is this a financial decision, or is this purely an emotional decision? Is it really just Harry wanting his children to reconnect with their British heritage, which they really haven't had whatsoever, and to experience British life, which we know is so important to him? He's been very vocal about how much he loves this country, although, of course, he's been equally vocal about how much he distrusts the media and about how upset he's been about his wife's treatment within the British tabloids.
We also know the relationship between Prince Harry and his father and brother have been tense. He has recently met with his father. Is there a chance to mend that relationship, especially considering the king's health?
Yes, and we know that since the king's cancer diagnosis, Harry has seen him only 3 times since February 2024. And that's a pretty shocking amount for any father and son. So I do think there is that emotional pull. We know that the King and Harry have been speaking more regularly on the phone in the last few months. Their relationship was very frayed at the time of the publication of Harry's memoir. If you look at this timeline on the screen, you can see how few times Harry has actually been able to meet with his father. And also, these are very limited meetings, half an hour, 50 minutes. And of course, the children and Meghan hadn't stepped foot back in the UK since 2020. 22. So I think it is a really important part of it all for him to be closer to his father during this time. We know the King's cancer treatment is going well. The announcement in December from Buckingham Palace, when the King released a video for Stand Up to Cancer, was that he has the treatment has decreased from its intensity of once a week. So that is good news, and that he's still following doctor's orders. And we know that he is sort of working and living with cancer. And I do think that that will, of course, be playing on Harry's mind, being so far away in Montecito.
We know that the kids are enrolled in school in the UK. I wonder about security. So far, that's proven to be an issue for the family in both countries. And I expect they're going to want to stay private on what kind of security arrangements they have made with the Home Office or with whomever in the UK.
Yes, so this has obviously been a huge sticking point for Harry, is this furore between the Home Office and himself about whether to be granted taxpayer-funded police protection. So far, it has been denied. His appeal has been denied in court, and now there is sort of a risk assessment going on to reassess whether Harry should be put in that bracket of being granted RAVEX protection, which is the committee that does royal and public persona protection in the UK. Now, this has been a huge issue for him. He's been very vocal about it. As I said earlier, literally saying last year that he couldn't imagine bringing his children here without it. So also, could this move be a push for him to actually get that risk assessment granted and turned out positive for him? Could this be, okay, we're going to now be based in the UK, you'll see how much we need it. We don't know whether they're bringing their private security from Montecito yet, so that's a question that's very up in the air.
A lot more reporting to do on this. India McTaggart, so nice to see you. Thank you so much. From a missile barrage across Ukraine's capital to a devastating mine collapse in Central Africa, let's get you globally current on the other headlines we're following today. Let's start in Ukraine. At least 15 people are dead after Russia unleashed a massive barrage of missiles and drones on Kyiv overnight. Dozens more were wounded in the strikes that hit residential buildings, a children's hospital, and a school. The attack lasted for hours. Now to the Central African Republic, where the death toll from a devastating gold mine collapse is now over 100. According to the Red Cross, you can see the moment there. The mine collapses here, captured on video, just heartbreaking. This is what's known as an artisanal mine, meaning workers dig for gold by hand. Rescue and recovery efforts still underway. The U.S. is sending a Navy hospital ship to Peru as the country braces for a potential powerful El Nino. The USNS Comfort is scheduled to arrive along Peru's northern Pacific coast in February 2027, when El Nino is expected to peak. Meteorologists warn this event could rival or even surpass the devastating 1997 El Nino, which brought deadly flooding, extreme heat, and wildfires. Coming up, the investigation into the deadly helicopter crash that left 5 Americans dead. What we're learning about those killed, including a member of our NBC News and Telemundo family. Plus, the dangerous dirt bike chase on the streets of Los Angeles, how this pursuit finally came to an end. More current right after this. From a hot pursuit of a dirt bike to a deadly air collision in Pennsylvania, let's get you current on the other headlines we're following today. A dirt bike rider is in custody after a pursuit through the streets of Los Angeles. It started near Dodger Stadium and cut through several neighborhoods. The rider going against traffic, veering through parks, even driving off from a gas station with the pump hose still connected. Police say he later ditched the stolen bike and ran through a few backgrounds and was caught trying to hide in a blue recycling bin. Police say he may have been armed. Government plans to deport the man accused of operating a boat that capsized near the Statue of Liberty, killing a mother and her 5-month-old daughter. Prosecutors say Manuel Hernandez piloted an overcrowded boat without proper certification, without safety equipment. A U-turn sent the vessel into a swell, throwing all 14 people on board into the water. Hernandez was released on $50,000 bail and faces federal charges. We're also following a deadly midair collision at a small airport near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It involved a small plane and a state police helicopter. Investigators say that plane veered off course during landing, striking the helicopter, which was conducting a training exercise. The plane's pilot was killed. Both troopers escaped and are okay. The FAA and NTSB are investigating. Today, investigators will be back on the scene of a deadly tourist helicopter crash in Kenya. 5 Americans were among the 7 killed. One of the victims was Jose Suarez, a veteran of NBC News Group and an executive at Telemundo. NBC News' George Solis is in Miami with more. George?
This tragedy has hit so many hard, especially here in South Florida. Jose Suarez was known as a mentor to so many in newsrooms across the country. Roger Duarte is survived by his child and his wife, whose family owns the iconic Versailles restaurant here in Little Havana. The family at a loss for words. This as the search for answers continues. This morning, an investigation is underway after a helicopter taking tours on safari in Kenya crashed. The pilot and 6 passengers, including 5 Americans, all killed, according to the Kenyan Aviation Authority and U.S. State Department. This video showing the search and recovery efforts amid charred debris in the mountainous terrain of East Africa. Kenya's Red Cross sharing these images showing plumes of smoke rising from the scene and part of the chopper's wreckage visible on the ground.
Having been an accident investigator for 30 some odd years, you learn not to speculate until you at least have hard data. Right now, we have very little data.
Among the Americans killed, Jose Suarez, a longtime Telemundo executive who led stations in Orlando, Tampa, and Fort Myers. In a statement, NBC Universal Chairman Cesar Conde calling Suarez a deeply respected leader and beloved friend and colleague who brought energy, humor, warmth, and a strong sense of purpose to his work. Also on board, prominent Miami restaurateur Roger Duarte.
Here at George Stone Crab, we've been in operation for over 17 years.
In a statement to NBC News, his family writing, "There are no words to express the depth of our pain." Also among the group, married South Florida couple Henry Parra and Adam Levate. Their friends telling NBC News both enjoyed traveling the world together. We reached out to their families, who declined comment. Ecuadorian intelligence official Michele Sensei Kontugi and his wife Stephanie also losing their lives. Kenyan authorities say the helicopter was flying between 2 safari conservancies when it crashed Wednesday morning.
The investigators are going to look at the debris field and anything they can learn from that, how the helicopter hit the ground. Did it hit anything before it arrived at its final impact point?
Kenyan aviation authorities say they will be back at the crash site today to see if they can learn more about what happened. Officials telling me the terrain is rugged and difficult to get to. You even need a chopper to get to some places. A preliminary report is expected in about 30 days. The loss, unfathomable. Back to you.
All right, George Solis, thank you for that report. New details in Hayden Panettiere's death. Her mother telling NBC News that police say they're looking into whether the late actor's death was a crime. There were no additional details, but she said officials brought in a narcotics investigator to that case. Panettiere was found unresponsive at an apartment on Sunday in South Carolina. According to the police report, she was with her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Brian Hickerson, and his brother. Joining us now, NBC News breaking news reporter Rebecca Cohen, who had that exclusive interview with Panettiere's mom. How does this this is a tough story to follow, you know?
It definitely is.
Talk to me about these new details and how do they change the nature of what we know about the investigation?
I mean, it tells us that investigators clearly found something that's making them a bit suspicious and making them want to look into the circumstances of her death further. But what I will say is this isn't entirely uncommon, right? You know, when someone dies so young and so suddenly, I think that investigators will often take that extra step to look deeper into what the circumstances, surrounding her death might be.
You reported that multiple federal DEA agents have been assigned to the case. What does that typically signal in an investigation?
So in the police incident report, we were told that Brian Hickerson handed over to police a bag of prescription medicine that he said Hayden was taking at the time of her death. So what DEA agents are going to do is look into those medications, look into whether Hayden was taking them and whether there was any criminal situation going on with someone who might have procured those medications for her.
Right. Do they match the prescription? Were they prescribed to her?
Exactly.
All of that kind of stuff. You spoke exclusively with her mother, Leslie Vogel. She spoke exclusively to you first. What did you take away from your conversation with her?
Yeah, she had a lot of concern about the circumstances surrounding Hayden's death. She, of course, praised her daughter, said how amazing she was on screen and that how she wished things could have been different between them. But she's really, like I said, concerned about what could have happened over this weekend, why she was with her on again, off again boyfriend, and just finding out the truth of what led to Hayden's death.
And she mentioned the timing, right? The timing of the police were called, on a Sunday afternoon, early afternoon.
Yes. So she said that it was just a weird timeline because if drugs and alcohol were involved, Hayden has spoken extensively about her issues with addiction. And her mom said that it just seems like a weird time because people aren't typically, quote, partying on Sunday afternoon. But like I said, there's just so much we don't know yet. And that's why investigators and DEA agents are probing this even further.
And the mother said that her family had been concerned about her relationship with Brian Hickerson.
Yeah, she spoke about how she and and Hayden's father have for years tried to separate them, get some distance between them, but have obviously been unsuccessful. But there's been a lot of concern over their relationship over the past 8 years.
In her own memoir, she wrote about domestic violence, restraining orders, a very, very volatile relationship there herself.
Yeah, definitely. She wrote also about how she had chosen to separate herself from Brian Hickerson and then also when she chose to forgive him. So it sounds like there was a very deep connection there, but with potentially some troubling layers.
All right, Rebecca Cohen, great reporting on this story. Keep us posted if you learn anything more.
Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up, America's debt just topped $40 trillion for the first time ever. How we got there and what comes next. Plus, Sandra Bullock speaks out in a rare interview about the death of her longtime partner after his battle with ALS. We'll get you current after this. America just hit an ominous milestone. Our government's pile of debt now officially $40 trillion. We brought you this story earlier this week and explained there are serious concerns with a national debt larger than the country's entire economy. The government is also running bigger deficits, meaning it's spending more money, a lot more money, than it's bringing in. The culprits, COVID emergency spending, the war in Iran, huge tax cuts, and now tariff refunds. Here's one alarming statistic with this debt. The government is expected to spend more on interest alone than it spends on Medicare. Joining us now, NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal. Ali, you think of the American credit card. That's what this is. The government is spending, and that balance on the card is now $40 trillion. And interest rates are rising. That means it is ever more expensive to pay the interest on the credit card. And it squeezes out a government's ability to do other things. That's what's so concerning here.
Exactly, Christine. And I think the interest part of this story, that's the main thing that we're super focused on right now, because as you said, over $40 trillion in debt. That's 123% the size of the entire U.S. economy. And just like a credit card, the bigger that balance gets, the higher interest rates go, the harder it is to service that debt. And so far this year, the government has spent nearly $1.2 trillion on interest alone. That is crazy. Like you said, those interest payments are on track to surpass what the government spends on Medicare. And then you have all these jitters in the bond market right now, in part because of this debt that's pushing up longer term yields even more. So this pressure likely won't go away anytime soon.
Okay, so you've got the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, now estimating the debt's going to increase by $2.1 trillion this year alone. That means the U.S. government right now is spending way more money than it brings in. Just pull back. The national debt was just under $20 trillion when President Trump first took office in 2017. At the time, he said he would eliminate the debt in 8 years. Instead, from the first Trump administration to the Biden administration until now, you've had the debt actually double.
Yeah. Double. And I think it's important to remember that this is pretty party agnostic, right? Both Democrats and Republicans have been dealing with this issue for quite some time. Under Biden, you had aggressive spending on infrastructure, clean energy initiatives. Under President Trump, massive tax cuts. That's one of the reasons why he pushed so hard on tariffs. And now we have those struck down by the Supreme Court, those tariff refunds, also increased spending on things like military and immigration enforcement. You mentioned COVID before. That was huge. Trillions and trillions of dollars spent on pandemic relief relief efforts. You also have longer term structural problems happening with the U.S. economy. We have an aging population, so it costs more for things like Medicare, for Social Security. And then I'll throw another problem out there, Christine. Inflation, still sticky. We have energy prices high. We don't know what the Fed is going to do. It's very possible that they could raise interest rates later this year. So I like to think of it as this, cycle of circular financial pain that the government just keeps finding itself in. And the answer, not many people know, which I think is the biggest concern right now.
Yeah, the stock market has been record high, but the bond market is what matters here. And the bond market has been responding, meaning interest rates have been rising. The 30-year bond yield, the highest in 19 years before the U.S. Treasury stepped in and tried to make some moves to relieve pressure, at least in the near term. What signals are we getting from the bond market here?
Yeah, so that was a pretty surprising move from the U.S. Treasury, right? Basically stepping in and saying the United States is going to be a bigger buyer of these longer term bonds to try and stabilize the market. That helped a little bit, but even this morning, we once again are seeing yields tick up. And all of this matters to consumers because what we see in the bond market, what we see with these long-term Treasury yields, that has a ripple effect on things like mortgages, the loan you pay on your credit card, business-to-business borrowing. There are clear economic consequences here. So it's all things that we're watching very closely.
I mean, it was in 2024 that the Treasury Secretary said you can look at the Trump administration economic plan and you will know it's succeeding because interest rates will be falling. And interest rates have not been falling. They've actually risen to the highest in 19 years. So we'll see what the bond market has to say about the strategy in the months ahead. Ali Canal, thank you so much. A new report shedding light on how artificial intelligence is hitting the global workplace in real time. The data from Goldman Sachs found more countries are embracing AI, with the U.S., France, the U.K. and the Netherlands leading the charge there. About 15 to 20% of businesses in those countries are now adopting AI systems. Okay, so that makes companies more efficient. They can make more money. But guess what? As the use of AI rises, hiring is slowing in some of these industries like call centers, software publishing, management consulting, and advertising. Joining us now, Brooke DePalma, senior reporter for Yahoo Finance. A common thread here is these jobs is the ability to automate, right? So could this just be the start? What does this Goldman Sachs analysis tell us?
This Goldman Sachs analysis ultimately tells us that jobs that can be done via computer or over the telephone and already have these automation labor tools, those are the ones that are going to get impacted the most. Like, think about a telemarketer. That's over the phone. That could be automated more efficiently. And those are the jobs that are going to get hit first. And we're already seeing that impact come into play, especially as this adoption rate here in the U.S. is roughly 20%, Christine.
We also saw from this report and a lot of others that the biggest vulnerability is entry-level jobs, right? As kids are coming out of college and getting their first jobs or going into college, talk to me about the risk to entry-level jobs from AI.
Yeah, well, that is the biggest risk here. We're seeing an increase in AI adoption impacting entry-level jobs, largely because these are roles that now can be done by automated technology. And this is definitely impacting the way that people are thinking about where exactly they're enrolling in college. We've seen less students in the 2025 to 2026 enrollment year go into things like computer science, go into things that are around technology or this particular AI type of jobs. And they're going into more jobs that won't necessarily get hit by AI. You think healthcare, you think education, you think jobs like that are more secure than opposed to these jobs that are automated. Also, when you think about unemployment rate among recent college grads, because of this impact, that certainly has a role there, too.
Yeah, it's no surprise that so many universities are adding, 1, 2, and 3 credit courses about AI for every kind of major because they want their kids to graduate and know how to use it or be very fluent in artificial intelligence. Exactly. Earlier this year, Goldman Sachs estimated that AI could replace 25,000 jobs a month, but also add 9,000 jobs that work in tandem with AI. So I think the Goldman report and others, there's a nuance here. There will be jobs created and there'll be jobs lost.
And where we're seeing jobs created is in construction. In July, we saw about 20,000 jobs added within construction alone. And so that nuance of about 16,000 jobs certainly can be offset where construction jobs are added to build out these data infrastructure centers.
All right, Brooke DePalma, nice to see you, Brooke. Thank you. All right, still ahead, a paradigm shift, the breakthrough for a possible vaccine to treat skin cancer. And next hour, the latest round of the Romans report will simplify saving for college and break down what parents can do starting right now. We have more current right after this. Actress Sandra Bullock is opening up about the loss of her longtime partner, photographer Brian Randall. The Oscar winner is speaking candidly about his private battle with ALS. The debilitating nervous system disease robs people of the ability to move, to speak, to breathe. He died in 2023. Here's NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda.
This morning, Oscar winner Sandra Bullock opening up for the first time about the loss of her longtime partner Brian Randall and his private battle with ALS.
He asked me not to share, and I know why he asked me not, and it isolated me in the process.
In a new episode of the podcast Smartless, Bullock explained how the secrecy around the model-turned-photographer's disease took a toll on her, shouldering Randall's difficult care inside their home while raising her 2 young children during the COVID pandemic.
When the physical illness was then coupled with the mental health aspect of things, and it's something that people don't talk about. And it doesn't happen to everybody, but it was a trifecta that was pretty dark.
Along with her sister, Bullock says she eventually confided in fellow actors Jennifer Aniston and Amanda Anka, the wife of Jason Bateman. The three seen in Bullock's recent Instagram posts showcasing behind the scenes of the podcast, friends, and family. ALS is a progressive nervous system disease that impacts the brain and spinal cord and has no cure. Lou Gehrig, Stephen Hawking, and more recently actor Eric Dane among the well-known people who have faced the devastating disease.
Where he was in his journey, both physically and mentally, I started grieving Brian 4 years before he passed. You know someone through their eyes, and there was something that had shifted.
Bullock and Randall's love story dates back to 2015 when he photographed her son's birthday party. The couple made their public debut later that fall, appearing on the red carpet for her film Our Brand is Crisis. He later snapped this image for People magazine's cover to celebrate Bullock's adoption of her daughter Lila.
And if anyone tries to hurt one of my new friends, I would take them out.
While the Miss Congeniality star often leads a private, personal life, Bullock gushed about her family to Hoda in 2018.
You're a forever parent the minute you accept the love of that child.
Several years later on Red Table Talk, she praised Randall as a great example for her kids.
I am someone who went through the divorce process. Right. I found the love of my life. We shared 2 beautiful children, 3 children, his older daughter. It's the best thing ever.
Randall passed away in 2023 after a 3-year battle with ALS, according to a statement from his family, who acknowledged at the time Brian chose early to keep his journey with ALS private, and those of us who cared for him did our best to honor his request. Now, several years since Randall's passing, Bullock says she's in a good place.
I think I did the right thing with the kids. Yes, I did usher Brian out the way a human being deserves to be ushered out. And I didn't take care of myself then, but I so take care of myself now.
Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
All right, a potential game changer for tens of thousands of Americans living with melanoma. Pharmaceutical giants Moderna and Merck say an experimental vaccine treatment has shown signs of preventing the deadliest form of skin cancer from returning or spreading. The data has not been published in any peer-reviewed medical journals yet, but the companies say they will present their results to regulators. NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson has the details.
A potentially pivotal moment in the fight against high-risk melanoma. A new mRNA vaccine combined with the immunotherapy drug Keytruda showing clinically meaningful improvements, keeping the cancer from coming back in a large-scale trial. Melanoma is a serious form of skin cancer that kills more than 8,000 people a year. Dr. Michael Postow at Memorial Sloan Kettering worked on the trial.
Other types of cancer vaccines in general have been approved, but this is the first personalized cancer vaccine that's shown a benefit in a phase 3 study so far.
Gary Keblish got the vaccine in 2019 after his difficult diagnosis.
Not very good. 75% chance, if I remember correctly, of the melanoma returning within a 5-year period of time.
Now with his wife and daughter, the public school teacher says he is cancer-free.
Happy and healthy.
Here's how it works. First, doctors surgically remove the melanoma tumor. The patient starts on Keytruda while the tumor and patient's blood are analyzed for their unique mutations to make a vaccine. The process takes about 6 weeks. Moderna and Merck, developers of the experimental treatment, saw their stock prices jump on the news. More specifics on the trial outcomes are expected later this year. Now, in the earlier phase 2 trial that Gary was a part of, that combination of vaccine and Keytruda cut recurrence in half compared to Keytruda alone. Investigators will be looking to see if the phase 3 trial results are as good. Back to you.
All right, Ann Thompson, thank you, Ann. There's much more news ahead. The next hour of Current starts right now. Good morning. It's 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Christine Romans. Let's get you current. Record heat in the South leaves schools scrambling, plus tens of millions under new flood alerts today. We're tracking it all. Face to face, President Trump pushing for a new meeting with North Korea's Kim Jong Un. We're live at the White House. A hearing happening this morning in Carmelo Anthony's bid for a new trial, why he says he was denied a complete defense the first time. And a whistleblower witness takes the stand in the case against Meta, what he said about the company culture Mark Zuckerberg created. And it's good to be with you this Thursday, August 20th. We've got a lot of news to get to this morning. We begin this hour with that late summer heat wave stretching coast to coast. 83 million people are under alerts today from Southern California to South Florida. Temperatures in some cities feeling well into the triple digits. That's forcing some areas to get creative to keep residents cool. Crews in Phoenix are adding 200 miles of cool pavement. That's supposed to make up to a 12-degree difference when the mercury rises in the afternoon. 35 million people are under flood alerts this morning. Parts of the Midwest bracing for a second round of heavy wind and torrential rain. Many communities are still without power and are still cleaning up from being hit hard last week. NBC News meteorologist Angie Lastman will have a closer look at the forecast in just a minute. But let's start with NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson. She is in sweltering Houston for us. Priscilla, Texas is having one of its hottest summers to date. How is it feeling in Houston?
Yeah, Christine, I just want to give you a sense. It is 88 degrees right now. That is up from when I even spoke to you last hour. So the temperature is climbing, and you mix the heat and the humidity, and the air right now is thick. We are going to get up into the triple digits, feels like temperatures and actual temperature by later this afternoon. And the thing is, this isn't just a one-day thing, as you mentioned. It's been happening across Texas for a large chunk of the summer. In fact, Dallas has seen 26 days at above 100 degrees, and it's not over just yet. There are going to be more days to come. That is far exceeding what they normally see in any given year. And so it is going to be hot, and there is no end in sight for so many folks. Christine?
Oh, no, those hot temperatures soaring during back-to-school season. You spoke with a school administrator, right, about what they're doing to keep kids safe.
Yeah, I was out in Katy ISD about 30 minutes outside of Houston speaking with the health director there. Of course, the athletic practices are being held before sunrise in some of these instances, but also they're even changing the way some of the younger students do recess to really minimize their time outdoors. Take a listen.
If the normal time for recess is 30 minutes, well, perhaps it goes down to 15 minutes to limit the time that the students are in the heat. But it's also a healthy action to be out in the to recess and get some exercise as well, but still being cautious with that heat.
And un-air-conditioned school buses are another concern across the South in places like Louisiana, Alabama. And we're hearing from experts that inside those buses, even with the windows down, it can be several degrees hotter than it is outside. So very concerning. A lot of parents raising the alarm about that as back to school is on with this heat.
I know. And hydrate, 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 hydrate. Are there any other ways to keep cool? Other tips?
Yes, and Christine, when we say hydrate, we are talking about water, not the sugary sodas and the energy drinks that the kids like to go for, and sometimes the adults too. That can actually further dehydrate you, and it's also consistent hydration. This is a days-long heat event, so it's not just, oh, I drank enough water yesterday so I can take it easy today. Every day you've got to be drinking lots of water, and if you can, wear that breathable material when you're going outside, and more than anything, just try to minimize the time outdoors. I'm about to run and go get back in the AC as soon as we wrap here, and that is my suggestion to everyone right now.
All right, loose clothing. It looks like you know what to do when you're outside in the heat. Thanks so much, Priscilla Thompson. Thanks for your great reporting, intrepid reporting. It's early there and it's still so hot. Let's bring in NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman. Let's start with the heat. Where is it feeling like triple digits today?
You know, a better way for me to answer this, Christine, where isn't it feeling like the triple digits today? We've got a whole lot of folks that are dealing with yet again 100 plus for the actual temperature, and even more of those folks in these regions dealing with 100 plus when it comes to your heat index values. 110 is what it'll feel like in New Orleans today, 109 in Dallas, 111 in Phoenix. Even looking ahead to tomorrow, not much of a change. We've still got 104 in Oklahoma City, feeling like 107, Baton Rouge at 108, and Columbia, you'll top out at 93, but you will feel like 101. If you're looking for relief as we get into the weekend or even the upcoming work week, you just don't have any in sight, unfortunately. Still into the high 90s for Baton Rouge. Valdosta will be into the 90s, triple digits for your actual temperatures in San Angelo, adding in that humidity, and it's still just oppressive across the Gulf Coast. The only kind of positive spin we have, if you're looking for some nicer conditions, more bearable conditions, Christine, places like Nashville and Raleigh, those temperatures will come down to a more typical kind of range for this time of year, upper 80s, feeling like the 90s.
And you got what? Flood watch is up for 35 million people. What are we watching here?
Yeah, so we've got basically, you know, some of these thunderstorms are kind of settling in across parts of the mid-Atlantic. And this is going to be one of the spots that we watch later today. The upper Midwest, too, hail, wind gusts, those are locations that you'll likely see some of these thunderstorms ramping up. But we're really concerned about the extremely heavy rainfall that is expected across the I-95 corridor, already prompting some of these watches and even flash flood warnings across parts of Pennsylvania and Ohio. This is going to slide into basically the northeast in that I-95 corridor just in time for that afternoon commute. This is going to leave us likely with some issues when it comes to travel in and out of airports and on roadways. We've got hourly rainfall rates anywhere from 1 inch to 3 inches in those areas. So we're concerned about that. But if it feels like we've kind of just had this corridor of extreme rainfall right across parts of the Midwest over the past month, we have Iowa to West Virginia. We've seen just an incredible amount of rain, 400% of normal in places like Muncie, Champaign, Columbus. We are talking about 3 to 7 times more than average. And a lot of this is because of that heat dome that is really prompting those kind of oppressive temperatures across the southeast. But this ushers in some of that Gulf moisture right around that circulation of that high pressure. So we get all of this moisture on that northern periphery of the heat dome. So not just dealing with the heat, but also prompting the thunderstorms and more moisture. We know, Christine, with climate change, the atmosphere can hold way more, and we know the Gulf waters are way warmer. So all of this just kind of leaving us with the climate impact from these thunderstorms as well.
Of course. All right, Angie Lassman, thank you for covering it for us, Angie. All right, we're fast approaching the 6-month mark in the war with Iran. President Trump has told his top aides to hold off on negotiating until Iran is ready to make a deal. But in the meantime, he wants to turn the economic pressure way up, threatening an economic D-Day, as he called it, that would extend to anyone who does business with Iran. He wrote in part on social media, quote, "Any country that allows its financial institutions, businesses, airports, or government entities to provide any type of lifeline to Iran will itself face tremendous economic consequences." Joining us now, NBC News senior national reporter, political reporter Sahil Kapoor. Remember, the president initially said this war would last weeks. It's now almost 6 months. First, it was a bombing strategy. Then it was negotiations. We had a 2-month period where there was a memorandum of understanding. Now it's economic D-Day. What's this new strategy?
It's a good question, Christine. Not really clear what the end game here is. It is safe to say that this war has certainly not gone according to plan. The president initially said it would last 4 to 6 weeks. He wanted regime change. The Iranian regime remains in place, and we are coming up on 6 months with this war. Trump is now threatening economic warfare and isolation on an unprecedented scale versus Iran. He called it economic D-Day. He did not provide details. I think it's an open question as to how much leverage and what kind of tools he would have against a country that is already so heavily isolated. He did additionally threaten tremendous consequences against any country or entity that provides support to Iran. So think China, Russia in that bucket. He has tried bombing. He has tried threats. He has floated ending their entire civilization. He's tried negotiation, sometimes threats that lead to negotiation. He's tried striking an interim deal with the MOU. He's lately said there are no talks happening and even threatened to bomb Oman. None of it has worked. All of it comes back to the Strait of Hormuz, which is critical to global oil supplies and is squeezing the U.S. economy. The Iranians have realized in the midst of this war they have real leverage, Christine, and they will use it. The long-term goal, yes, is no nuclear weapons in Iran, but the short-term goal is reopening the Strait of Hormuz. And I would look at all of these actions and all of this talk by President Trump as largely an attempt to do that.
Let's shift to North Korea, Sahil. The president says he will meet with Kim Jong Un later this year. Here's what he said yesterday about their relationship.
I do have a good relationship with Kim Jong Un. As you know, you've seen. I think our nation and I think other nations, frankly, whether it's Japan or South Korea, they're a lot safer if I'm president than if somebody else is president.
Now, the president this week also criticized joint military drills with American ally South Korea. So this timing seems notable.
Yeah, it is notable. The president clearly wants a meeting with North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un. He is connected directly his good relationship, as he calls it, as he describes it, with Kim, to the fact that the U.S. cut short military drills with South Korea, which shocked the South Koreans. They apparently didn't have a heads up about that. The president has cited the cost on this matter. He cited his dissatisfaction with Seoul for not helping with the Iran war. Another unspoken dynamic that our NBC News team reports is trade. The White House apparently doesn't think South Korea is making good on its trade commitments. So whether his goals are directly related to North Korea and wanting something from them, or is he doing this to try to send a message to the South Koreans? Christine.
And before you go, President Trump has announced White House Legislative Affairs Director James Braid is out. Do we know why this personnel change now?
Not exactly a reason given here, but James Braid was one of the OGs. He was hired by President Trump from the start. He was there through the bulk of President Trump's legislative agenda. And look, in terms of timing, it's not very difficult to figure this out. The midterms are coming up in a couple of months. Democrats are very likely to take control of at least one, if not two houses of Congress. The legislative agenda is going to change very dramatically. Christine.
All right, Sahil Kapoor, a lot to get to there at the White House today. Thank you. Now to Texas, where a hearing for convicted teenage killer Carmelo Anthony is happening right now. A judge is hearing arguments over whether the 19-year-old high school track star should face a new trial. In June, Anthony was sentenced to 35 years in prison for stabbing and killing another high school student at a track meet. Just yesterday, the district judge who presided over the case was removed from any further proceedings after the defense challenged his impartiality. In an interview after Anthony's guilty verdict, that judge said jurors, quote, got it right. Joining us now from outside the courthouse, NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler. What new details are we learning this morning from this hearing, Ryan?
Well, we're getting updates from the hearing going on as we speak from inside the courtroom, minute by minute, from our eyes inside the courtroom at NBC Dallas. They describe what appears to be a very tense atmosphere inside the courtroom today. We know that Carmelo Anthony is inside wearing a suit, and he was allowed to be unshackled for these proceedings. One of the major questions at play right now is an issue over what prosecutors and the defense attorneys refer to as a gentleman's agreement in the original trial to keep all the testimony and the facts centered around what happened in that tent when Anthony later admitted to stabbing Austin Metcalf. They didn't want to talk about the character of these two young men. In other words, they weren't going to hash through whether Anthony was a respectable student or get into his personality or temperament. But the defense attorneys for Anthony now say that gentleman's agreement was not followed, and they criticize the judge for not keeping a record of this. It's one of the grounds on which they say this judge didn't do a very good job presiding over the original trial because he didn't keep a lot of things on the record like that. So some procedural, technical things, but it's one of the arguments that they're trying to make to get a new trial.
Okay, so those are the grounds under which his attorneys have filed for a motion for a new trial. But if a retrial is granted, what can we expect to happen next?
So we expect if a retrial is granted, which is still a big if, we'll get a date for that new trial at the same time. But what is important to keep in mind here is that while that may be celebrated as a victory for Anthony's defense team, Austin Metcalf's father is framing it very differently. Our NBC affiliate spoke to him just this week, and he says that, look, we need to keep in mind that a new trial could lead to a new conviction and a new sentence. Right now, Anthony is serving 35 years, and if he completes the entirety of that, he'll be released from prison at about 54 years old. But if he could be convicted again, he could get a harsher sentence, with the maximum being life. So this is still very much a live ball with no guarantees for either side here, Christine.
All right, Ryan Chandler, thank you so much for that. We are also following breaking news in the high-profile murder trial of Lindsay Clancy. The jury dismissed for the day after hearing from just one witness this morning. The case is now attracting support from women across the country, even in some places overseas, like the Netherlands. Supporters dressed in pink say they want to raise awareness for postpartum mental health. Yesterday, the defense called back the expert psychologist who evaluated Clancy after the killings of her 3 children. Court was scheduled for a full day, but yesterday's hearing ended unexpectedly when jurors were dismissed early. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Stephen Romo. Stephen, we just heard from the hospital chaplain this morning before the judge dismissed the jury for the day. This seems like deja vu from yesterday, where they got started and then ended earlier.
Yeah, we still don't know exactly why that is. The judge pointing out that it's not the fault of either side, asking the jury not to hold against them. But we did have some interesting testimony from this hospital chaplain, Sheila Kavanaugh. So this has to do with the timeline and the voice that Lindsay reported hearing after the killings that told her to take her own life after killing her children. So the hospital chaplain started seeing Lindsay on January 25th, the day after the killings. And she's also now saying that Lindsay told her about the voice. Now, that could be a problem for prosecutors and their timeline, because they had interviewed a trooper earlier who said that he'd heard of a theory that Dr. Paul Zeisel, the defense expert, psychologist, had implanted this idea of the voice to Lindsay. Well, if what we're hearing from the chaplain is true, it seems like her conversation with Lindsay about this voice could predate that. So that could be difficulty for them there. We're waiting to hear more on that point. Prosecutors obviously pushing back against this already.
What should we expect from the rest of the defense from this point?
Well, we do know that since the jury has been dismissed for today, there is a preliminary charge conference today where the judge will talk to both sides about the possibility of what the jury instructions will look like. And we do expect a couple more defense witnesses. But the way the timing has sped up here, we could see closing arguments as early as Monday. Defense could rest its case tomorrow.
Talk to me a little bit about the crowds that quietly have gathered wearing pink.
Yeah, they're quick to not point out, to say this is not a protest. This is a rally in support of Lindsay. Really, their focus of the organizer was to support Lindsay, who she saw so emotional in the courtroom. But so many other people have joined in, wanting to stand for postpartum depression, postpartum mental health care coverage in general. So many people feel very strongly that women are not really being seen and heard in this area of health care.
All right, Stephen Romo, thank you so much. Nice to see you. Much more ahead this hour, including TechCon trial. A key witness takes the stand in the case against Meta, what a former employee turned whistleblower told the court. Plus, disrespectful, distasteful, and strange. The online backlash to a kid's ride modeled after the Titanic. And later, meet the farmer who turned his sea of corn into a lake of dreams. We'll get you current after the break. Today marks day 3 in the landmark trial against Meta, which could forever change how we use social media. Multiple states accuse the company of designing platforms like Facebook and Instagram to get kids addicted. Meta denies those claims. Yesterday, the court heard from a former engineering director at Meta who called out CEO Mark Zuckerberg by name. He said, quote, "It was the company culture that Mark had created that made it so that it was practically impossible to deliver features that address the well-being and safety issues that we've been talking about." Joining us now, NBC News legal analyst Angela Senadella. Angela, he called out Zuckerberg, this former employee, kind of making the argument that the issues from Meta start at the top.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So anytime you have one employee and you're trying to use that employee to represent an entire company's perspective, it is very important to establish that this was a cultural problem and not just one employee's perspective. And so you can imagine here what the defense would be, right? It's that, look, this company was so enormous and trying to do so many things at the same time that just because a few employees were maybe bad at their job does not mean that Meta knowingly deceived the public, because that is the linchpin of this whole case for the state, their allegation that Meta knew what they were doing was wrong. But when you have this engineering director on the stand who not only points it directly at Meta, at Mark Zuckerberg, but also repeatedly praises his colleagues as being the best in the business, as being ultra competent, then you don't have these engineers who are doing something bad or wrong. You have a directive from the top, and you have amazing people just executing that directive. So this was very important for the states to establish, Christine.
The states have not said if they're going to call Zuckerberg to testify. What do you think, Ann? Walk us through what they have to consider when deciding whether to put him on the stand.
So, look, I feel like it might seem like this could be, the biggest gotcha moment of the case to put Mark Zuckerberg on the stand. But you have to remember that he is a very successful CEO who has been battle tested. At this point, he has testified multiple times about this in front of Congress. And he's also likely being advised by literally the best and most expensive lawyers in the entire industry, right? So two things could happen. One, you could have the states putting him up there and having this gotcha moment where they say, look, you did not reply to this engineering director's email when he talked about how his daughter was having these safety issues on Instagram. Now, we're going to compare that to your inbox where actually, you did know about what was going on. Gotcha. So that's a possibility. But then there's also the opposite alternative possibility where he could get up there and he could affirmatively talk about all of the amazing things Meta did do in order to try to protect teens. The fact that these studies that are now being used against them were intentionally created to figure out what sort of harm was occurring. And so it could go both ways with either showing Zuckerberg as proactive or as deceptive, Christine.
What do you make, Angela, of the decision by the states not to call kids or teens to testify and talk about firsthand experiences?
So, Christine, I actually think this is very, very smart. So if this were a personal injury trial, it would be very different. You have to prove causation and harm very directly. But this is a case about corporate deception, and their studies almost are enough. There's studies that show that through their own words and through their own discovery, that teens were being harmed. Teens were being put in harm's way through their own app. And so the problem when you do put forth original witnesses who have history of mental health or trauma, there's just a lot of messiness. You could point to all sorts of other factors for why this teenager is experiencing distress, right? And that's what we did see in Los Angeles. And that's what you have to do. It's a risk you have to take in personal injury cases. But this is just about what did Meta know and how did they deceive the public?
Angela Sanadella, thank you so much. A really important landmark trial there. It could change how we use Instagram and Facebook and other social media. All right, a hearing for the man accused of trying to assassinate the president at April's White House Correspondents' Dinner has just wrapped up in federal court. 31-year-old Cole Allen was back before a judge this morning with a number of pressing issues expected to be on the table, including a possible trial date. NBC legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach joins us now. Gary, the speedy trial clock has already been paused to give both sides a little more time to review the evidence. Did we get any closer today to knowing when this case is actually going to go to trial?
Yeah, prosecutors today in court said they are ready to go. They want a trial to start in April. They say their case is going to take about 2 weeks to play out. The Judge Trevor McFadden here in D.C., pumped the brakes on that a little bit. He's concerned about just the amount of evidence in this case that the defense doesn't actually even have yet. He's concerned that there's terabytes of evidence from all of the closed caption television footage, all those cameras that were in and around the Hilton that the defense doesn't have access to yet. He's also concerned about all the evidence of the travels that Cole Tomas Allen took from California through Chicago and to Washington, D.C. that the defense also doesn't have access to yet. He also, in this hearing, denied a request from Cole Tomas Allen's attorneys to allow him to be removed from shackles when he's in the courtroom. Of course, you remember the video, the closed caption video that we saw of him running through the mags. Basically, the judge said he didn't want a repeat of that to happen in the courtroom, and he didn't want his marshals tested in terms of how quickly they would be able to get this guy. So he's going to remain shackled in all of his future court hearings. Christine.
You know, Gary, this was such a high-profile event, literally a gathering of journalists from across the country. Given all the attention on this case, what do we know about Allen's defense strategy at this point?
Yeah, so it's really not a question of whether or not they have the right guy. Of course, we just saw that video. He was arrested there on the scene. They definitely have the right guy in this case, but it's all about intent. That's going to be the real question here, because he is charged with the attempted assassination of the President of the United States. He could potentially, if convicted, spend the rest of his life behind bars. So one of the reasons that the defense needs all of this evidence is because they need to form a defense strategy here. They need to explain that perhaps he wasn't doing what he had said in writings and said in some videos that he was intending to do. They're going to have a really a heavy mountain to climb here on this, especially given the amount of evidence here. But these are federal public defenders that are defending Cole Tomas Allen. These are people whose job it is to defend some of the worst in this country, because everyone deserves a defense and nobody is guilty until proven so.
All right, Gary Grumbach. Thank you so much, Gary. From President Trump's reunion with Michael Cohen to a new twist in the reflecting pool saga. Let's get you politically current this morning. In an apparent turn of events, President Trump and his former fixer Michael Cohen are on speaking terms. The president called into a radio show that Cohen was hosting this morning. The two spoke for about 40 minutes. Part of that conversation will air tonight. Cohen telling NBC News, quote, "There are things that President Trump, said to me that I have never heard before." The two had a major falling out in 2018. They've been publicly feuding and trading insults ever since. New information about the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. The Trump administration was apparently warned about the peeling pool nearly a month before charging an Olympian with vandalism. According to court filings, a National Park Service engineer cited the renovation process and materials used as reason for the peeling. The Justice Department dropped its case against Olympian David Hearn last month. And Mike Lindell, a staunch President Trump ally and the founder of MyPillow, appears unwilling to put his election loss to bed. He told NBC News he's willing to pay for a recount of Minnesota's governor's primary after losing the race by 11 percentage points. The Secretary of State's general counsel told Lindell that a full hand recount will cost, get this, $825,000. Up next, breaking news, new and low numbers from Walmart just in show the worst sales growth since the pandemic. We break down what it means about how families are spending their money. Plus, in today's Romans Report, we'll simplify saving for college, where to start, and why slow and steady is best. We have Current right after this. From new testimony in the Tupac murder case to a kite surfer's rescue captured on camera, let's get you current on the other headlines we're following today. The murder trial over the deadly shooting of Tupac Shakur is moving into day 4 in Las Vegas. Prosecutors have spent the first 3 days walking jurors through the years-long investigation, including evidence in which Dwayne Keffe D. Davis described his role in the shooting in a tell-all book. Davis's lawyer has called the prosecution's narrative, quote, fiction. The trial will resume this afternoon. A twist in a manhunt in Massachusetts. Police releasing new video in the search for Karen Solomon, wanted for questioning in the death of her husband, a police officer. He was found dead in the family's Worcester home Tuesday morning. The ring cam video appears to show her walking by an animal clinic the same morning. Authorities have searched a nearby reservoir and continue to ask the public to be on alert. A kite surfer is safe after getting caught in a strong current off the San Francisco coast. Police say a drone spotted the kite surfer in distress. This was Tuesday, helped guide fire department rescuers to that scene. Watch here as the drone pilots direct rescuers to the kite surfer, who was safely brought back to shore. All right, breaking news. Major retail earnings released this morning, and here's why it matters. We're talking about Walmart, this huge retail giant. What happens at Walmart shows what's happening to the American consumer. It had the weakest growth in sales since the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, just 2.6%. There were new pharmacy regulations that hurt the company's sales. One silver lining here, a large tariff refund has allowed Walmart to lower some of its prices that could help customers already really hurting from high inflation and rising gas prices. Joining us now, NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal. These numbers are so important because as goes Walmart, I think, so goes the country. You can really see how people are spending their money and how they're pinched by gas prices. Like, what are we hearing from the company about how consumers are feeling?
So the big takeaway from Walmart, and we heard this from others too, is that the consumer is still spending, but they certainly are feeling a lot of this pressure. Now, when it comes to that sales miss, Walmart blaming that pretty much entirely on these new pharmacy pricing regulations, not the consumer. However, the company's CFO told investors that they are seeing this incremental pressure, particularly around gas prices. And he noted that $4 a gallon threshold. And that tends to be a psychologically important mark for consumers. And we currently are at around $4.10 a gallon nationally. Another interesting piece here is that Walmart says it continues to see growth from higher income households. We've talked a lot about the K-shaped economy, how the higher income consumer is propping up a lot of that spending growth.
So people who make $100,000 or more are starting to shop more at Walmart.
Yes, which is a lower priced retailer. So that's always interesting to me to see where those luxury consumers, those higher income consumers are choosing to spend their dollars. And we also heard this from other types of retailers. Home Depot and Lowe's said their customers are actually delaying big projects, discretionary spending, because of all of this economic uncertainty out there.
So they also got a big tariff refund. So that helps sort of the numbers for the company. But will shoppers see any of that tariff refund?
We heard this from Target, too. They're actually reinvesting that money into their products to lower prices. So the company said that in the second quarter, they actually saw price rollbacks on about 11,000 products. That was up from just around 7,000 in the first quarter. Now, some context there. The average supercenter stocks around 120,000 products. So we're only talking about 10% of that inventory. But what stood out to me is that they called out ground beef in particular, which we know are at record high prices. That's actually an area where they chose to invest some of this money from the tariff refunds. So the consumers should feel at least a little bit more relief when they check out.
We heard from the Treasury Secretary. He was just on CNBC talking about this he was asked about the U.S. national debt topping $40 trillion. This is a milestone I don't think anybody thought we would get to in the beginning of the first Trump administration when it was under 20 and the president said he could eliminate the national debt in 8 years. Instead it's raced to 40 trillion. What did he say about that?
Yeah, so basically the issue with the debt, and this is something that we've been dealing with for years, is that it's creating a lot of jitters in the bond market. And this is what Bessent was asked during that CNBC interview. Take a listen.
We routinely do buybacks, and we're going to increase the size of the buyback. And, Sarah, I would note that it could be more than the $4 billion per issue.
So what he's talking about there is a measure that the Treasury Department did where they basically are buying back their own debt to try to stabilize the bond market a little bit.
To try to lower those
interest rates, lower those yields. You can think of it as a sort of debt reshuffling of sorts. That original buyback plan was $2 billion. Yesterday, he said they would double that to $4 billion. And you just heard it could potentially be even more than that. I just checked, though, and Treasury yields don't seem to be reacting much. They're still higher.
All right. There are a lot of underlying issues here. There's a war with Iran, there's inflation, there's overspending, we're spending too much. Reshuffling the debt doesn't fix any of the reasons why interest rates are rising in the first place. Okay, Ali Canal, nice to see you, Ali. All right, in today's Romans Report, best financial practices for saving for your child's college education. It may seem far off for some families. Could be years in the future, trust me. As a mom of three sending her second kid off to college this weekend, it is never too early to start planning, even if you can find $50 here and there to start investing. Let's start with the newly created Trump accounts. If your child is born between 2025 and 2028, they will get $1,000 from the U.S. government as seed money when that account is opened. There are also 529 savings accounts. This is a state-sponsored tax-advantaged savings account that'll position your child well for their financial future. And by the way, you might get a tax break for doing it. It might help you, too. Joining us now, my friend Doug Flynn, certified financial planner from Flynn Zito Capital Management. He and I have been talking about how families can get ahead for a couple of decades now. So he's the man with the plan here. Okay. If you were not to invest another dime in a Trump account, your child would have, $5,000 by the time they turn 18. That's free money. Right. If the Trump account then turns into an individual retirement account at 18 and you don't invest another dime, it's like $200,000 by the time you're 55. So if you qualify for a Trump account, Doug, they should be doing it, right?
You should definitely be doing that because it is the money from the government, the seed money. That's a good thing. As far as putting your own money in there, if your child has earnings, you want to look to do a Roth, because a Roth, the big key difference is that would be tax free, where the Trump account is just tax deferred, meaning that when you take that money out, you're going to have to pay ordinary income tax on it. So between those, certainly the Roth and even the 529, if you're using it for college specifically, would also be tax-free. So you have to know what's the target, what's the goal with that money, but certainly take the free money. That would be something I would want to do. Okay, so for the Trump account, you take the free money, you take the free $1,000 and let it ride. You say if you're going to be putting more money away for the future for the kid, we'll talk about the Roth IRA in a second. The 529 is a better tool for saving for college. It has some good side benefits, too. If you don't spend it on college, you can spend some of it for retirement. Talk to me about the 529. You must tell your clients they should do a 529, yes? Yes, out the gate. If the goal is to help your child pay for college, we all know how expensive it is now and what it's going to be, then certainly directing money towards that specific goal makes sense. If you're not sure what you're going to do with that money and they may not go to college, certainly you'll have to pay some penalties for taking it out if it's not used for college. But that compounding of tax-free is so huge. And that's the big differential between the Trump accounts, is that, if you have $100,000 accumulated in the Trump account and $100,000 in a 529 used for college, that money coming out for the 529 will be tax-free. The money coming out from the Trump account for other things is going to be fully taxable at that time. So you just have to know what the use is, or at least think you know what the use is going to be. So when you know it's for college, I would clearly start with the 529 and get that money compounding as quickly as you can. And a reminder, the cardinal rule of personal finance is you save for your own retirement first. So let's keep that in mind here. You want to be saving for your own retirement first. This stuff is after you've made sure you're doing at least the minimum there. College costs are soaring. Interest rates are high. I've been in these school, these college like seminars where they're talking about financial planning, and the Parent Plus loan has an interest rate of 9%. So if you're borrowing for college, you need to be really careful here, too. Talk to me about what you tell your clients about the borrowing for college piece of this. Yeah, look, it's the thing about college is it certainly needs to be something that the family can afford, but not to the point where you're wrecking your own retirement. So it's probably a combination of early savings. It's looking at the proper school selection. Too many people stretch for that reach school that might not have a difference in ultimately what job you get, and having a proper financial aid strategy, using the tax-free benefit of the 529, and just having honest conversations with the student. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about getting the student into college, it's getting them out with a degree, maybe some manageable debt, and not blowing up your own retirement in the process. Agree. So that's it. Totally. And so that's the point. You can borrow for college, but you want to do it strategically and smartly. You can't borrow for your retirement. So unless you want to move in with one of the kids when you're done, that is probably not the best financial plan. I love my kids, but I'm not quite sure they want to host me forever. Hey, listen, really quickly, we don't have much time, but we talked about the Roth IRA. If your kid or grandkid this summer earned money at the pool or mowing lawns or doing any kind of job that they can show that they have taxable earnings, they should put it in a Roth IRA, shouldn't they? Yes, and so here on the screen you see an example of just 3 summers from age 15 through 17. If they made $2,500 during that period, you put those 3 years away, invested in an average index fund. If it got 10%, like historically, between now and the age 67, that's $1 million just from those 3 summers. Now, they may not be able to put that $2,500 away, but what a lot of parents or grandparents will do to incentivize them is you make the money, we'll match that and put it in the Roth for you. That's very powerful. Time is their superpower. It's amazing when you look at those numbers. $2,500 earned over 3 summers can be $1 million when you retire. Doug Flynn, you're the best. Thank you for coming by. Thanks, Christine.
All right, coming up, hear from an astronaut about the upcoming crewed space flight aboard Artemis 3, the trailblazing mission to set the stage for a future moon landing. And talk about wild encounters, a pig on the run, an otter in New York City, and an eagle with a new girlfriend. We'll tell you all of these stories when we get current after this. A closer look this morning at the upcoming Artemis 3 mission set to launch next year. NBC News correspondent Ryan Nobles spoke with one of the crew members about how they're preparing for their journey to the stars.
Mission Specialist Colonel Frank Rubio.
Since officially joining Artemis 3, NASA astronaut Frank Rubio and his fellow crew members have been thrust into high gear as they prepare for a critical mission, meeting up and docking with commercially built lunar landing systems.
Landing humans on the moon is still incredibly difficult. Each time we do one of these missions, we test another component of the overall concept.
During their 2-week mission, the Artemis 3 crew will soar in an Orion capsule, first to an altitude of about 900 miles above Earth's surface, before dropping to half that distance for the first test, and completing the second one around the same orbit level as the International Space Station.
How much work goes into that preparation to make sure you get it right when you're up there?
Thousands of people working, thousands of hours doing all those calculations. Honestly, it's not just us. Our main role is to be there, monitor, and if things go wrong, to be able to adapt and help still make the mission a success.
SpaceX and Blue Origin are the companies building the lunar landing systems. And while both have experienced setbacks this year, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman says he's been in touch with their teams and does not expect to change the Artemis 3 timeline.
I'm extremely confident that we are going to be able to launch Artemis 3 next year.
With plans to return humans to the moon as early as 2028, NASA needs this next test to go well as it faces a new space race, this time with China, also aiming to land its astronauts on the lunar surface by 2030. Even for Rubio, who once spent more than a year in space, going into orbit remains a thrill.
It's always something that we dream of as kids, is to get on a rocket and go to space. And so to be able to do that as part of my job is fantastic.
He's joining Commander Randy Bresnik, pilot Luca Parmitano of Italy, and fellow mission specialist Andre Douglas, a backup for the last Artemis mission that took its crew around the moon.
We just went sci-fi.
And deeper into space than any other humans. Rubio, who has Salvadorian roots, says he hopes they can inspire a new generation.
What is your message to young Latinos that see you and see themselves in you?
I hope that they can see in me an example of the fact that with hard work, dedication, and all the people around, it's been an incredible honor to represent all of that.
Ryan Nobles, NBC News.
All right, an attraction at a family farm in the UK has people talking. It's a slide called the Titanic, and the reactions online are anything but smooth sailing. NBC News correspondent Danielle Hamamdjan takes a closer look.
Gravely Fruit Farm in the UK is a family-friendly destination for fun and fruit picking. But it's not the strawberries that's landing the farm in the headlines these days, but this slide. An attraction for the children named after, yes, the Titanic. And much like the real one that sank more than a century ago, this Titanic ride lifts up in the air, sending the children sliding down onto a crash mat. It first opened at the farm last summer.
We posted on social media, and on that post, we got a number of comments, which basically said, "You're being very insensitive, da-da-da." So we panicked a little bit.
Farm manager William Campbell Gray says that prompted them to change the name. A choice, he says, sparked an even stronger reaction.
We got an enormous amount of backlash. My wife, who runs the social media, got death threats. People absolutely loved the fact that it was Titanic. My son's obsessed with the Titanic. He loved coming to the farm. Why have you changed the name? So we actually had a big, long thought about it and lasted about 2 weeks with the name change. Then we changed it straight back to Titanic, and it's stayed there ever since.
So when you hear about people say, listen, this was one of the biggest tragedies, dozens of children died, what is your response to that?
Well, my response would be that we're not making the fun of the dead at all. We're not insensitive at all. It's actually very much a sort of in memory of Titanic.
The reaction online this summer? Well, some commenters calling it distasteful, with one writing, "So odd to have a children's ride themed around one of the worst tragedies in history." But the majority of the comments in support, with one writing, "I'm glad you didn't change the name." Alex Dodman visited the farm last year.
It didn't bother me at all. When we were there, my kids learned about the Titanic.
There's a similar attraction at another farm in the UK, and inflatable slides are popping up at kids' birthday parties. This one appearing to have an entrance for first-class passengers. The iconic 1997 film about the doomed ship is one of the highest-grossing movies of all time.
We need to remember that Titanic, number one, it is a disaster, and there was a great loss of life, but it's also a really big cultural phenomenon.
A sunken ship that still has its grip on culture today. Danielle Hamamjian, NBC News, London.
All right, we have some wild stories to get to, from some utterly great news to a tiny piglet that's a total ham. For the first time in 100 years, an otter has been spotted in New York's Bronx River. That's right. That's a North American river otter right there. At least that's its backside. Researchers say this sighting is an encouraging sign for the local ecosystem. When it comes to love, it appears the eagle has landed. Shadow, half of California's famous bald eagle pair, Shadow and Jackie, seems to have a new mate, Katie. The group that monitors the nest says Shadow and Katie have been spending a lot of time together recently. For the record, it's been less than 2 weeks since Jackie passed, but we're not here to ruffle any feathers about love lives. And a ham on the lamb caused quite the commotion in the streets of West Hollywood.
Hey, come back, pig! Hey, come here, pig! Hey, come back, pig!
Look at him go, a man on the back of an e-bike posting the hot pursuit online. A local shelter says the piglet's owners have until tomorrow to pick him up, or he'll be offered for adoption. But I'm telling you, with speed like that, maybe this little ham has a future as an LA Ram. All right, coming up, a Chicago area nonprofit going above and beyond, how they're making sure medical patients and their families get the help they need to heal. And we introduce you to a farmer who went above and beyond for his kids, turning his sea of corn into a lake of dreams. We have more current right after this. In our series 50 States in 50 Days, we're introducing you to the people making a difference. Today, we're in Illinois. It can be challenging for families to afford to stay in Chicago for medical treatments. That's why a local nonprofit is offering patients and their families a place to stay. Regina Waldrop from NBC Chicago takes us inside.
It's a hidden gem in the city's medical district. A building bringing home.
This is one of our standard one-bedroom units.
And heart.
Pots and pans.
To those who come here for critical medical care.
I've been here since January.
Good girl.
I just had breast surgery. It would be a week tomorrow. And I'm, slowly recovering. I'm also here for Parkinson's treatment. And the guest house is just a blessing. They take care of you, they check on you, they make sure that everything's okay. We have community dinners and we sit down with everyone, and talk and chat, and we get to meet the other residents and become a family.
What do people do if they're diagnosed with something? If the doctor says you need to stay close to the hospital, well, how do I do that? What do? I can't afford a hotel. That's where we come into play.
So rates at the guest house are at least half the cost of the nearest hotel, and no family is turned away for their inability to pay. Patients are usually referred here by their hospital or other partnerships.
Their social worker will say, I know a place that you can stay that is clean, convenient, affordable, and will provide a good experience for one night or up to a year. What we really try and do in building community is to try and give people some of that dignity and individuality back when they're staying with us.
My wife came up here for a double lung liver transplant, and there is no way we could have pulled this out without the guest house.
This is a perfect representation of the impact that guest house makes. We work with Rush University Medical Center and with a program called Road Home for veterans and their families. So every 2 weeks we have a different cohort that come to Chicago to get treatment for PTSD, and they're able to do that because they're able to stay with us to be able to get that support.
Restock cabinets, or I'll visit with people, I'll pass out welcome bags, I'll do all sorts of things. Even though I don't meet all the patients here, I've met a lot that I've really come to know and are family to me.
We need people to understand you have a resource in your backyard. You don't have to be from around the country. You can be down the street.
So many people need to know that it's here and need to contribute and do favors for them and volunteer, because it's an absolute blessing.
Regina Waldrop for NBC News Now.
What an important story, Regina, from our station in Chicago. Thank you for that. And finally, if you dig it, they will ski. On the bright side, we introduce you to a Wisconsin farmer who turned his cornfield into a lake of dreams for his kid. Boyd Hupert from our affiliate in Minneapolis has that story.
Grow up on a farm and you work.
We would get up before school, feed calves.
But Elaine Heller-Butler's dad had more than cows on his mind.
Play and fun. Mainly water skiing.
Water skiing was an inconvenient choice for a man living in a sea of corn.
He has an idea.
Till Elaine's dad planted something new.
We dug down to the water table.
A lake that grew from a cornfield.
Blue Moo. You gotta honor the girls that pay the bills that dug the hole.
Blake Heller is unaware of another farmer.
Nobody crazy enough.
Who'd hire a neighbor with an excavator to dig a trench a half-mile long. Then count on underground springs to fill Blue Moo Lake.
He's definitely different.
That's putting it nicely. He's a little different.
Greg Fotla is Blake's son-in-law. And this is what happened. As Greg and Elaine's kids, Tucker, Kaysen, Carson, and Cooper, were introduced to Blue Moo.
This is Carson. She is 6 years old and she's learning how to slalom ski.
Carson's parents have made Blue Moo their kids' ski school.
This is how you teach people how to barefoot.
Which has surprised
1 foot.
No one.
Two of us met at a barefoot tournament when we were 13. The very first time we went against each other, I beat her.
And then the 4 times after that, it was me.
I let her beat me a couple times at those tournaments, got her number, and here we are.
Greg, for the record, is a Blue Moo big to-do, too.
This is a back seat.
But only one person on this boat is in this book.
Yeah, Mom, because she broke the world record.
World record barefoot skiing jump, 2 world championships, and 2024 inductee into the USA Water Skiing Hall of Fame.
Still got it.
All earned training in a cornfield. Maybe Elaine's dad wasn't so crazy.
You bet. God dang right.
Nor is this.
Yeah, brand new.
Elaine's family
At the Blue Moo.
now lives in the cornfield, too.
Why not here? We have this beautiful lake, that's why.
It's as if 20 years ago, her dad just knew.
That's where it all started.
Hollywood may have built a baseball diamond in a cornfield, but it took Blake to grow a lake.
This is our dream come true.
Come on. That's the story everybody needed today. If you build it, they will ski. And Boyd Hupert, wow, you are a feature king at NBC. Thank you from our affiliate in Minneapolis. Love that story. That does it for us this morning. We're grateful that you joined us today. NBC News Daily picks up after a very quick break.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.